Hey, what it do? Welcome to another new episode of Locked On Bucks. On today's show, the Milwaukee Bucks lose to the shorthanded Memphis Grizzlies 113-110. And when I say shorthanded, I mean the Memphis Grizzlies injury report looks like a CVS receipt type of shorthanded Memphis Grizzlies. That's the team they lost to tonight. Me and Frank are going to talk about this game, a reported buyout edition heading to the Milwaukee Bucks, plus concern levels heading into the All-Star break, with the Bucks carrying a 3-7 record under Doc Rivers into the break. All that and more up next on Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me weekly on the Technical File podcast, as well as find my work over at Cheesehead TV and Pack a Day podcast. Joining me is Frank Madden, longtime voice of the pod and founder of BrewHoop.com. We appreciate you tuning in, and thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts, as well as on YouTube. I will say, as we start this off, excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold, and the Milwaukee Bucks did not make me feel any better tonight. Coming into this game against Memphis, which, by the way, the Memphis Grizzlies were the last ranked offense in the league. I got to tell you, Frank, I did not expect this game to end up with clutch minutes at the end, but that's what we got here. The Grizzlies were up at what I thought was a comfortable margin, under a minute to play. They had some free throws, but we had two quick Malik Beasley free throws, some missed free throws from the Grizzlies, and then a chance for, the Bucks to at least tie it up, being down 3 after Dame takes the charge, gets the ball back, 11 seconds on the clock. The Dame Brook pick and roll is just all a shambles. Dame loses the ball. Bucks don't get a shot off. The game is over. The Bucks lose. Just how are you feeling after this very, very disappointing Bucks loss?
I mean, one step forward and two massive steps back, this week, right? I mean, arguably the best performance of the season on Monday against the Nuggets, and you follow it up with a complete towel, white flag waving in that third quarter against the Heat. And then, you should have motivation to go into the All-Star break on a winning note against a Grizzlies team that's, racked with injuries. And, they were coming off a back-to-back.
Yep.
And you kind of just didn't take it seriously early. And I think the Grizz just got into a comfort zone, and they hit a ton of shots that they probably normally don't hit. They end up, 50% from 3, I think. But, you kind of reap what you sow. And I thought the ending was kind of fitting, right? Like, the Bucks can't just go into the All-Star break with a tire fire loss. They have to give themselves a chance to tie it, and then completely screw up the chance to tie. It's like, if you lose by 9, like, maybe we can just hate you Bucks and go to bed angry, but instead you had to give that glimmer of hope that you'd have a chance to tie it. And instead, it looked like Dame was going to lose the ball entirely when he bungles into Brook on that screen. Mm-hmm. Amazingly gets the ball back and still sort of had a chance at the very end there with that Hail Mary. But to effectively not even get past half court when you inbound it with 11 seconds left. Dame with probably his defensive play of the year, Camille, taking a huge charge. It was, kind of just a distillation of what the last few weeks have been, in the sense of, you can basically look at Giannis, and Giannis held up his end of the bargain. 35 points. He missed 2 shots all night.
15-17 from the field, 5-9 from the free throw line.
11 assists. He was giving Bobby Portis layups most of the night. And, Dame started off pretty well, and then just did not make plays really in the second half. I think he had a couple of plays early in the fourth quarter, and then I don't know. It seems like a very long time ago, Camille. Remember when Dame was like Mr. Clutch to start the year? Opening night, 39 points. Was that the high note of the Dame era, basically, with that monster game against the Sixers? I mean, that's what it
He's
feels
had a
like.
couple, yeah.
It just feels like this month has just been.
Tough.
I hope it's rock bottom, because if this isn't rock bottom for him, then man, like I'm not looking forward to post All-Star break.
Yeah, and Dame is such a crucial piece for this Milwaukee Bucks team. We've talked about the Bucks record when he scores at least 26 points, I believe. Like, I don't have it off the top of my head, but
It's like 22-3 or something like that.
Yeah, like it's unbelievable what this record is when Dame is on. And again, we know why you make the trade for Damian Lillard. You're doing it for the offense. And with the way this team is constructed, being so top heavy with the big contracts there, you're relying on Giannis, you're relying on Dame primarily as your two go-to scorers. And then, of course, you're looking at Chris Middleton and you're looking at Brook Lopez. Now, there was no Chris Middleton tonight, but yet and still, this is a Bucks team that when you look on paper, you're like, this team should beat the Memphis Grizzlies even without a Chris Middleton. But you have Brook Lopez. He's 5 of 14 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3. Dame is 3 of 13 from 3. And then you look at Malik Beasley, your other starter, 3 of 10 from 3. Like, your backcourt going 6 of 23 from 3 is tough to overcome, especially when the two of them are taking over half of your 3-point attempts as a whole team. So this team, I don't want to say they go completely as Dame goes, but he is such a crucial piece to this offense. And when Doc got here, you know, he talked about looking for ways to unlock this defense or unlock this offense because he felt there's another level for them to go to. And it looks like the Bucks are struggling to figure out exactly how to unlock that. Now, of course, we know over some of the games, they had some guys in and out of the lineup. And again, with them being top heavy, if you're missing Dame in a lineup, it's going to be hard for you to win. The Bucks have not actually won a game so far this season when Damian Lillard does not play. Without Brook, it's a bit more difficult, but the guys got to play better. I know Doc Rivers mentioned the fact that some guys were already in Cabo tonight. Like, half the guys were already on vacation tonight. But that, to me, like, I get that. But after a disappointing loss to the Heat like that, I was really hoping to see the Bucks bounce back and go into the break a bit stronger than what they did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, like, whenever the Bucks lose, I always want in my brain, I always like, oh man, I hope there's a game tomorrow. Like, I just want to get this taste out of my mouth. And so now, I mean, like, I'm not going to listen to any like national podcasts for the next like 10 days, Camille, because it's just going to be, I mean,
torture.
Deservedly, they're just going to kick dirt on the Bucks, and that's not enjoyable. And you know, but I've said it so many times. I mean, the season is long. I think there's justified to be concerned about this team. In particular, the fact that they don't look like a team that is ready to hang on to a top 2 or 3 seed in the East, which to me is, aside from good health, like the main outcome you need to shoot for at the end of the regular season. You need to be healthy and you need to be the 2 or 3 seed because you don't want Boston in the second round. But I think the way this is trending, I think the Knicks have lost 4 games in a row. You know, but I mean, things happen, right? I mean, Cleveland was down bad and then they figured something out and they won a ton of games in a row. You know, things can change quickly. I still think there's the talent for this team to be really good. And look, at the end of the day, like, when you're top 4 guys on the floor, you're plus 16 net rating. And, you know, in a lot of ways, the All-Star break can't come at a better time because they need Chris Middleton back. I think that's been one of the obvious takeaways. The offense has looked disjointed and lacking creation, you know, pretty regularly, really, over these last few weeks. The offense has been pretty mediocre, I would say, overall. And so even though there've been, you know, more games where there's been, I think, encouraging things on defense, we have not seen the offense just be able to kind of carry them to wins. And a lot of that's because Dame's just been terrible this month. I think, you know, at this point with 3 for 13 night, he must be still under 30%. So Giannis is still out shooting him from 3 this month, which is not great. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not even asking Dame to be a top 75 all-time NBA player. I'm just asking him to be like a top 25 current right now NBA player because he was that for a lot of this season. Let's not forget it. I mean, late in last calendar year, he had a really good extended stretch.
Had an outstanding December.
Yeah, but for some reason, obviously just the shots abandoned him, and some of the turnovers and decision making, it's just been bad. And obviously he's not really giving you anything defensively. So they just need more from him. And I think it's, at this point, again, I hope this is rock bottom for him this season. But it's just been tough to watch. And it sucks because he had a good first half tonight, right? And then just
started off really well. Yeah.
Again, just it seems like every night, it's 2 for 9, 3 for 12. Just the shot making, just that we're used to, is just not there. And I'm sure that guy is still in there. But maybe the 3-point shooting contest will unlock it, Camille. I don't know. And
hope for him and bees.
Yeah, if there was an easy answer, I'm sure they would have figured it out. But we know there's a lot going on with him. He had the injury. Obviously, he's got the personal stuff off the court. But at this point, it's just kind of weird that he would be going backwards at this point, because we've seen how good he can be even this season. We're not just, banking on last year's Dame. We've seen him play great basketball for the Milwaukee Bucks, but obviously it just has not happened with the level of consistency, especially in the calendar year 2024.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to continue to have this conversation a little bit more in depth, just about how the Bucks have been looking over the last 10 games with Doc Rivers at the helm, and what concern levels are for you personally. We can't speak for everybody heading into All-Star break. So let's talk about that after this break. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each and every week, all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or you're looking to scout the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So taking a look at who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week, the player I'm going to highlight is Marvin Bagley III. Bagley is Washington's likely starting center now after the Daniel Gafford trade, and that is worth grabbing for fantasy leagues just because of the playing time alone. The opportunity will be there for Marvin Bagley III, so that's someone to definitely keep an eye on. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors of the championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. It's the exact same with your vehicle. Now, the everydayers might have heard me talk about my first car before. I had a 2009 Nissan Altima, called my car Rico. And one of the things I always wanted on Rico was just nice hubcaps. I didn't go and get rims myself, but I wanted to have some different hubcaps outside of the Nissan standard one. I wish I would have known about eBay Motors ahead of time, because I went through a lot of hubcaps on my first car with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Between brake kits, LED headlights, in my case, hubcaps, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you'll be burning rubber and not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay's Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. We truly appreciate you tuning in to Locked On Bucks, and a special shout out to all the everydayers who make sure they tune in Monday through Friday. Even the live shows that we throw here, we definitely appreciate that. And make sure y'all stay tuned, because we are going to continue the content throughout the All-Star break. And if you enjoy Locked On Bucks, you probably will enjoy Locked On Sports today as well. 24/7 sports coverage of all of the top stories of the day. It's brought to you by the local experts from Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every league. So head over to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Now, Frank, we mentioned a little bit before the break just how the Bucks are looking, and I mentioned the Bucks are heading into the All-Star break with a 3-7 record over their last 10 games, which does coincide with when Doc Rivers took over. When the Bucks return from the All-Star break, they're going to only have 26 games left. People are always looking at the All-Star break as a halfway point in the season, but the reality is it's not halfway. We're really already like 2/3 through the season already. So we've talked about it a little bit, but are you concerned about this team's prospects, or do you think there's still an avenue to improvement with this roster? Because maybe I'm a glass half full type of girl, always have been. So I'm going to always try to find something to cling on to for hope. And I do think that there's still an avenue for this roster, for this team to be a championship contender. But what do you think?
I mean, they've played all their cards, right? Especially with the Gallo signing. You've used up all your roster spots. The trade deadline has passed. You've already fired your coach. This is the group you're stuck with. And so I think they have a chance to contend for a championship if they're healthy and if things, break their way, which we've seen over the last 3 years. We obviously saw one year where things broke their way repeatedly and they made big clutch plays and they won an NBA championship. And then we saw the next 2 years, they had very untimely injuries and opponents making a, ridiculous number of shots and they lost and were hugely disappointing. So we know how much luck factors into what happens in the postseason. And really all you can do is try to position yourself well with your regular season record and in your seeding, and then hope that, the injury gods smile upon you, basically. So, again, I think I worry about what Dame Lillard is going to be in the playoffs, right? If he's a guy that doesn't seem like, he can bring it at a consistent level every night in the regular season, then what is he going to look like against playoff defenses? Is he going to be, he'll have 2 really, really good games out of 7 and 3 bad ones and 2 meh ones? Like what level can he get to in the playoffs? I think is a question that, we can't help but wonder about, given how inconsistent he's been here in the regular season. And then I think obviously the supporting cast is a huge question mark. Chris obviously has been healthy up until the ankle injury and was, playing at a high level. Brooke, again, I think offensively has dropped off a bit from last year when he had just a sensational scoring year and efficiency year. Defensively, I think there's probably been some drop off, but I think for the most part, the issues the Bucks have been more the perimeter defenders, not the interior defenders. Bucks are 9 points per 100 worse when Brooke is on the bench versus on the floor defensively. All the metrics in terms of rim protection, preventing mid-range effectiveness, all that, like all those things say Brooke Lopez is still, elite. So again, if people are like saying, well, he's not, a top 2 defensive player of the year guy anymore, like, okay, like I could have predicted, predicted that, given he's a 35-year-old dude. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's questions, and I don't know the answers to especially I think the supporting cast questions, and I don't know the answer to the Dame question. But again, like I don't think we can be prisoners of the moment either. And the season is so long, like you just can't, you can let yourself get too high because that's fun. That's what's being a fan is. But I just don't think you can, again, get too low on things when stuff goes badly, because it happens. And we've seen it even in this season. Look at, other than Boston, just look at some of the swings that, some of the various teams have had, right? I mean, the Nuggets have had a really weird kind of disjointed season, and you can kind of go up and down the list, right? Are the Warriors now suddenly good again? I like Camille. I was like, they were done, and now like people are excited about the Warriors again. I don't know. If stuff flips really quickly, at the end of the day, the good news is you have Giannis. No one else has Giannis, and he's been the only kind of consistent thing about this team night in and night out. We saw it again tonight. He was tremendous and unstoppable and got wherever he wanted. Really after the first quarter, really took one shot in the first quarter and then was kind of unstoppable the rest of the way. So you still have Giannis, and as long as Giannis is healthy, you're gonna have some chance.
That's a fact.
Maybe winning 4 straight playoff series like that. I think at this point, we'd say, I don't know that even Giannis can carry this team to 4 straight playoff series wins, but we'll see. And again, just got to pray for the restorative power of the state of Indiana for Damian Lillard and his jump shot, I guess. Because
yeah, I hope.
To me, it starts with him in terms of what their ultimate ceiling is.
I agree with the starting with Dame, and I listened to part of the Giannis Antetokounmpo podcast that he had with Dame. I didn't finish the whole episode, but they were talking about Dame time and things like that. And Dame made a comment along the lines of, I'm still figuring out my way. I'm still getting kind of comfortable. I'm still not there yet. He's and I feel as things continue to ramp up, and as games start to matter more, like you're going to see my intensity level pick up a bit going forward as well. So it seems as if Dame is kind of like, I understand what's happening. Like I'm still working through some things as it continues on. I expect that my play will continue to get better. And I know he's notoriously a slow starter. We've heard that from Portland fans who warned us like, hey, give him some time. So when we got to December and I was seeing Damian Lillard's numbers, I was like, oh, okay, we're starting to take that turn that they mentioned, that it's going to start getting better with the consistency levels here. I mean, January has just been a bad month. No, let me take that back. 2024 so far just has not been super kind to Damian Lillard on the shooting split. So if he can pick that up, I feel pretty good about the Bucks' chances, because if you have Giannis playing the way that he has and you have Damian Lillard being able to knock down shots, those are two players who raise your floor considerably. We saw Giannis almost take the Bucks to the next round against the Celtics a couple years ago without Chris Middleton, when he was just dragging them along as best as he could during that series. So I trust in Giannis. And what we also need, of course, is the health aspect of it. A healthy Chris Middleton definitely changes the equation. I don't want to see too much more point guard Pat Connaughton if we can help it. I don't quite understand that. I mean, we got Patrick Beverley on the team now. I got it when, Cam was being traded. We didn't have another point guard, but the point PC minutes does not work. That's not someone you really want initiating your offense there. So like I said, I'm a glass half full type of person. I see the avenues for the Bucks to get better, for them to play at a level that can get them in the conversation and on paper to the NBA Finals, but they are going to have to play better. We've seen the defense pick up. The offense has taken a step back. They need to get that offense back up while keeping this level of defensive intensity up. And I'll feel pretty good about them. So I know there's questions about the bench, and I get that, but we also do know that come playoff time, that bench rotation is going to shorten up. And we heard word today about Danilo Gallinari possibly signing with the Bucks. It's reported that he's coming to the Bucks. Pat Bev broke it first on the Pat Bev podcast, saying that Gallinari was going to be going either to the Bucks or to the Clippers. And then reports came out earlier today that the Bucks is going to be the team that he plans to sign with. So after the break, we'll talk a little bit more about his signing and how that might affect the bench and the Bucks rotation after this. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from another retirement accounts with a 3% match. So that's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by the Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Hood Financial LLC, member of SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Now, apparently the Bucks are going to have another guy on the bench. They cleared out that 15th roster spot when they traded Robin Lopez to the Sacramento Kings. And according to his agent, Danilo Gallinari is finalizing his contract to sign with the Milwaukee Bucks. So, Frank, what are your thoughts on the pickup, and how do you think this is going to affect the rotation with the Bucks adding in a stretch big, really, a 6'10" stretch big at this point with not much defense?
I would have liked this move more like last year or the year before,
absolutely,
when they had a stronger defense and the offense was shakier. Although maybe, Camille, the offense is shaky now again, so maybe they need his shooting. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't really fill an obvious need with Jay and Bobby, kind of fixtures in the rotation. But let's also be honest, like, Bobby has been up and down, has not been at the same level as consistently this year as he has before.
Yeah.
We obviously have seen him turn into a pumpkin in the playoffs the last couple of years. And, Jay's got the worst, on-off rating on the team. Like, they've been awful when he's been on the floor. And I don't think that's all, a Jay Crowder problem, but, I have my reservations about, looking at him as some sort of, saving grace or guy that, like, is going to close games for me or something like that. So I think it's just like a talent grab thing. I don't know that you are going to get like a more talented guy in the buyout market. I mean, maybe a more talented guy becomes available, but you're one of 30 NBA teams. You still have to convince that guy to actually sign with you. So Doc and Gallo have history. Gallo had probably his best season as a pro with the Clippers under Doc in, I think, 2019.
Yep.
So, there's some history there. And probably the most important thing is that there's presumably some trust, and that this was a move because Doc wants to not just have Danilo Gallinari on his team, but, as good as his personality is, I'm sure he probably also wants to play him. And so I'm just very curious how they kind of juggle his involvement with the likes of Jay and Bobby. And you could certainly argue that, if you knew this was coming, would the Bucks have been so tied to keeping Bobby Portis at the trade deadline, which, kind of reports suggested that they were, not willing to move off of Bobby unless they got a really nice return.
Mm-hmm.
And to his credit, Bobby was pretty solid tonight. Certainly benefited from Giannis gifting him about 5 layups. But we'll see. I mean, Gallo's a really talented offensive player. He's certainly much more of a scorer. Likes to kind of do, mismatch and post up smaller guys, can step out, knock down threes. It's kind of funny, like, going back a few years ago, he would defend Giannis pretty regularly when, he was in matchups against the Bucks. And I thought he was actually reasonably like surprisingly decent in the grand scheme of the universe against Giannis. Again, that's kind of like a weird, person to use as a bellwether, because who can really defend Giannis? So I don't know. I don't know what exactly he's got left in the tank. Is he, again, more of like a small ball 4-5 with Giannis option? Is he going to play some 3, with if Chris misses any more time? I'm not really sure. His numbers have held up okay, but I don't know, Camille. I don't know if you've been watching a lot of Pistons games this year. So
not since they won some games.
I don't know if you have much of an opinion on where he is right now, but we'll probably find out. I'm guessing he will see some run, but just thinking back to last year when John Horst spent $1 billion second-round picks to get Jay Crowder, and where was Jay Crowder in the first round of the playoffs? He was sitting on the bench stewing and acting like Mike Budenholzer had insulted his manhood. So again, I think Shams referred to a strong role, or a potential for a strong role, quote unquote strong role, as one of the reasons that Gallo was signing with the Bucks. So yeah, I'm very curious to see kind of how that plays out. And obviously injuries are always sort of a reality, and with injuries come opportunity. But that's probably the most interesting to me, is just trying to figure out how exactly Doc is going to use him, because I assume we'll see him. And I don't know. To me, this also, we can talk about like, well, they should have traded Bobby, but to me, I'm thinking, man, they really should have traded at least Marjon at the deadline, because this is just, you know, one more dude that is 100% going to see minutes before Marjon Beauchamp, and probably before Andre Jackson, who did play tonight, but really didn't do anything useful tonight, which, you know, as a reminder, like Andre, I don't think is a savior either. As much
2 fouls in 1 minute tonight.
Yeah, kind of, unfortunately, kind of typical Andre line. So, so we'll see. I hope you like, if you're a Bucks fan, I hope you like watching old dudes that you know, were drafted in the early 2010s / late 2000, late 20 aughts, because we got enough of them.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. And that's the piece with the signing of Gallinari that I'm really interested in seeing, is like, where do the minutes come from? Because the report that came out, I believe when Woj or Shams, I forget which one said it, but they mentioned that part of why he chose to come to the Bucks on the buyout market is because he was going to have a strong opportunity at a role. So I was like, that's interesting. Like, whose minutes there is he planning to take from? And maybe it's just based on the matchup or how the night is going. For the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe if it's a night where the offense from the bench is not cooking, you throw him in there and see what he can do, because he can get a bucket. Maybe you throw him out there in those situations. But when I start thinking about what the playoff rotation might look like, assuming everyone is healthy, you're looking at, of course, you know, Brooke, Giannis, Chris, Dame, and Beasley starting. And on your bench, you're looking at Jay Crowder, Bobby Portis, now Danilo Gallinari, plus Pat Bev, Pat Connaughton, AJ Green, who's been getting some runs. So it's going to be really interesting to me to see which of these guys can carve out a place in the rotation as time continues going. And once we get to the playoffs, what is that 7-8 man rotation going to look like for this team? But we still have 26 games to go when we come back from the All-Star break. Again, the All-Star festivities start on Friday. That's All-Star Saturday night, where you can see Damian Lillard and Malik Beasley in the three-point shooting contest. And then Sunday night, we have the All-Star game where Dame and Giannis are starting for the Eastern Conference. So there are going to be some Bucks that we can watch play basketball this weekend. And then the Bucks have a break until they come back. When the first game back from the break is against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So you're coming back to a game against the top in the East. So again,
maybe the Bucks just they just can't play these G League teams anymore, Camille. I think that's really the problem. They need to face the top teams. Let's ignore the fact that the Wolves blew them out, you know, a week and a half ago.
That was without everybody. You know,
that was when there was the G League Bucks, basically, right, with Giannis. Yeah, let's just hope it's a full strength Bucks team, and let's hope they look more motivated than they did these last couple of games.
Yeah, maybe once they visit Cabo, they won't be thinking about it as much on the court, as Doc Rivers alluded to after tonight's game. But we'll wrap up there tonight. Again, there will be Locked On Bucks content coming at you guys over the All-Star break. We are trying to align calendars to get Kane Pittman on the show during the break. So we're working on it. Hopefully we can get him on here and have some fun, taking some deep looks at the Milwaukee Bucks. So make sure you're keeping it locked into Locked On Bucks. And after you finish up this podcast, go ahead and check out Locked On Sports today for 24/7 coverage of all the top sports stories of the day. For Frank and myself, we'll catch you later.